Recording in progress.
Ben is here. We're talking about a wide range of things. We have signed agreement contract. Good. Thank you for coming on such a beautiful night. Doing. Here you are with us. You want to start and just say where we're going with this?
Sure. So one of the items that we really wanted to talk about, we had in conversations, is our impact fees and our impact fee ordinance. And I know we have talked a little bit in the past about the base plans that have to be laid and things like that. So we're looking to get more details and guidance of how it's going to move forward. And we'll be updating that capital plan, looking at our ordinances and doing updates.
And I forgot to turn my microphone on too, and yours right there. And looking at, through state statute, making sure that we're being in compliance with any updates that we want to do and move forward that way. So that's one of the higher up priorities that we wanted to talk about coming into this year and into town meeting next year.
So, a piece of history. So historically, impact fees were set up, they were very recreation, open space centered. And perhaps there might have been visions of a ball field or some kind of recreational facility that the board had in mind. Well, we haven't really used our recreation or open space impact fees at all, and we'll probably be turning some back this year, right?
We have used quite a bit. I just did the spreadsheet and we will be talking about 11,000. And I think that one's from the open space that we're going to have to either allocate next June or return.
So, and as we have sort of, evolved as some of the priorities, I think some of the sort of innocence has worn off from impact fees. We realize that our priorities should be different, that if we could use impact fees for our more pressing things like planning or infrastructure or something like that. So we're kind of babes in the woods here. So we're looking to prioritize using the impact fees for more pressing items, and B, figure out how we can change the ordinance so that we can do that. What do you think, Ben?
Thanks very much. Ben Smith from North Star Planning. And I think the concept is good. I think that, based on my quick review of the existing impact fee language, it may not have been updated in quite some time. So that kind of regular review is definitely recommended. And many of ordinances will say, the formula has to be updated on a regular basis, whether sometimes it's regular basis, sometimes it's every 5 years or whatever it is. Because there's two sides. It's basically a math problem, like a lot of fees. So when you calculate the fees, it's based on what do you need and how do you allocate that on a per home cost or a per square foot cost for a residential property. So what do you need and how do you define that fee? And just from a very basic standpoint, the state statute around impact fees allows you to establish impact fees for 7 different specific things. Certainly recreation and open space is part of that. Infrastructure like water, sewer is part of that. Schools is part of that. Transportation, including sidewalks, is part of that. So the key is it has to be a capital expense and it has to be related to new growth. So in towns that are not growing, impact fees are really don't have a lot of value. They're just marginally useful because if you need to, for example, replace an old dump truck, for example, it's old and it's worn out and you need to replace it, you really shouldn't be using impact fees for that. That's a normal maintenance thing that the town does because you have residents and things you need to do. If you had to get a new dump truck because you had more plow routes or you had more road projects or culvert work in the summertime, that's the kind of thing that you could say, well, part of the need for that extra truck or that extra lane or the new sidewalk is because there's more people in town using those things. And therefore, that portion of a project cost, sometimes it's a whole thing, but sometimes it's a portion of a project that you can use impact fees to pay for. So I would expect using that open space as an example, because it's relatively easy to calculate the costs associated with acquiring open space and kind of doing the math on the number of people that would use it. You can't use impact fees to, do maintenance or plow or maintain a trail on existing open space. But if you needed to create new trails or acquire new property or, start to diversify options based on new demand, that's the kind of thing you could use an impact fee for. And, the side of, what do you need? Like, do you need a new ball field? Do you need a new bay on the town garage? Do you need a new classroom at the school? Those kinds of things are where you could start to think about impact fees.
Can you take questions while you're talking? So our new conservation subdivision ordinance has open space included in the concept. And the idea, I think, in its germ was to utilize that open space, not only for the people in the subdivision, but as a general blueprint for other sites, so it's connected to the other open space. Can our impact fee be used within another ordinance to administer planning to connect? Let's just pretend we're gonna be in Boston. We're creating the Fenway and all the different green spaces there. Let's project that to Pownell. Pownell has a series of town-owned properties that are not connected, but as new conservation subdivisions come in, they may provide the puzzle pieces if we had the ability to take the burden off landowners and accomplish that with impact fees. That all possible.
And the way the ordinance is set up today, and I think this is appropriate, that impact fee would apply to all homes, whether they're in a conservation subdivision or whether they're done on a lot by lot basis. The select board does have the ability to waive fees. So if in a subdivision where someone is going to give 50 acres to the town, for example, the select board could say, well, we're going to waive your impact fee because you're giving us this property in lieu of a fee. But otherwise, each one of those properties, when they come in for a building permit, would need to pay the impact fee at that time. Yeah.
Questions, George or Kate?
So is there consensus around what some of those needs are? You'd mentioned, maybe there aren't as many needs as there were around recreation or open space. Maybe there are, but is there a sense that there's a big need on the horizon that is because of potential growth, or a portion of it might be because of growth?
Well, I would think that the general thought would be, so we're anticipating building a fire station and a municipal garage, and I think we generally argue that the amount of new housing is pushing us beyond capability of using our old facilities. So we need to modernize. So I think some kind of shift from ball field to fire station, municipal garage would be in keeping with the general sentiment of town meeting.
So in that kind of example, you know, a portion of a new facility could be rationally connected to new growth, especially if you're going to go from like a 2-bay garage to a 3-bay garage, or a fire station with 2 apparatus and now you're going to have 3 apparatus. Or maybe there's no ambulance in town, but there needs to be, you know, that kind of thing. Portions of that could be attributable to impact fees. The residents of Pownell today have those services available, and they would still have those services available. So like, you know, if a third of that project, or a third of the new capacity in that building, or half of the new trucks are because of growth, then that individual portion of those capital expenses could be paid for with impact fees. And the other part of that is, how much growth are you expecting? So you'd have to make some connection, you know, if you're going to be paying for a building over 20 or 30 years or more, or a truck for 10 or 15 years, that you have some reasonable expectation when you get the capital improvement, that you're going to pay for, you know, say half of the truck with a impact fee, but over time you only collect 10% of the cost of the vehicle with impact fees. That you know, the taxpayers would be the backstop for that.
Yeah, it wouldn't be so kind of the long.
Yeah.
The long range sort of vision may be that, so we have a big greenhouse down at the edge of town, and that a green zone may come up Route 9. So with GB cog, you know, I've been talking about, so what would it look like if we had a, you know, kind of a green zone? Now, that hasn't happened yet. There are people talking about various pieces of property along Route 9, but can we include that in kind of our planning for the impact fees? This is where the town would like to move towards, to have a business zone. That's all, you know, green's a funny word, but I get the drift. Agriculture or horticulture or solar or something within that kind of framework. That we would need, you know, infrastructure. We would need that extra fire barn bay, and we would need another plow truck to service those businesses, or, you know, separate from the TIF, which the greenhouse is, the extension of that zone. Could we project that is part of the long-term plan, and therefore refocus our impact fees to support that?
Yeah. Yes, the short answer is yes. And you'd have to think a little bit about what some of those needs might be. This may not be exactly what you had in mind, but just for ease of description, you know, it's common when you do like a downtown or a village plan to say the need to extend sidewalks. And residential properties as well as commercial properties generate foot traffic, and they would all be subject to the impact fee. So in that example, if it's public water or a small scale treatment plant, I could envision someday here, like within a 30-year planning horizon, having a small treatment plant that would serve, maybe 30 acres kind of in a small part of town. But those are the kinds of things that you could think about impact fees for commercial as well as residential. That's kind of what I was focusing on in your description. It's not all like a single family home, but sometimes it's depending on the business and depending on the impact. I would imagine, and I don't know for sure, but like a big commercial greenhouse may not be subject to a really large recreation fee if they're only employing 8 people and they're not near a town park and that kind of thing. But a 4-unit building with 4 families in it might pay a pretty significant recreational impact fee if they're all new users and they all going to need to access open space or get to the trail system. So it depends on what the fee is, and it depends on the impact of whatever that development is on the infrastructure. So a new home down by Freeport, I would expect is probably not going to be subject to a sidewalk impact fee in North Pownell. It would be related to the folks who are in the vicinity of actually using whatever that infrastructure is.
So right now we have very little signage on our town-owned property. If we were to put signs up, which would probably curl the toes of most of the older residents, but if we were to put signs up on town-owned property, would that make that property more available for impact fee use? Because at least people know it exists. Right now, a new resident would come in, and unless they came and looked at the tax map, they'd have no idea that we had some town-owned land next to their house, unless they, did a survey and stuff like that. What I'm trying to say is that, is there ways that the town can respond to projected growth by maximizing their assets they have now, knowing that if a piece of town woods is available for hiking and new people come and use it more, we'll have to upgrade the trail, or we'll have to upgrade the signing. See where I'm going with that? Probably not.
Well, I think the sign itself, it might be a little questionable as to whether the sign itself could be paid for with an impact fee.
No, just
But if there was a recognized need, say, if there's 20 acres of undeveloped woodlot per resident, or 10 acres per resident, or whatever the actual number is, and you need to maintain that threshold to be meeting wildlife values and the open space needs of the community. As your population grows, the amount of open space in an undeveloped woodlot situation would also need to grow. And if it needs to grow by 50 acres every 5 years, or whatever that number is, and you can do those projections, then that increment could be subject to an impact fee. You may find you have plenty of woodlots, but maybe you need a different kind of open space facility. And if you've never had one before, and I'm trying to think of what an example might be, a lot of towns seem to be talking about ice rinks or swimming pools these days for some reason. But, if you're like, hey, because of new growth, we need a municipal swimming pool or something, and new residents are generating the demand for that facility, and so a portion of that facility may be larger than a larger portion of that brand new facility, for example, would be subject to an impact fee than like a little bit more open woodlot that you may already have plenty of.
Becky, do you have anything that you'd like to ask, or?
I would wonder how we would track the need. How would we, so for instance,
Yeah.
we've had a potential subdivision coming before the planning board that had several units. Like, to me, that's a demonstrated piece that really could mean a lot more foot traffic or a lot more car traffic. So it could mean we have to add another position to Public Works to plow the area, which means a new truck. Like that sort of correlates, but how would we go about demonstrating and projecting out that potential need?
Yep. So if there was a sense that, I'll use, an example that, there's not enough sidewalks in town. And, we will need sidewalks in the future because of new development. You may say, well, we have no sidewalks now, and that's fine. So any new sidewalk is gonna be because of these increase in population or new residents. So then in that kind of scenario, any improvement you do that involves a sidewalk could be subject to the impact fee. There's another scenario where you say, we have 1,000 feet of walking trail per resident. And, whether that's enough for today's needs or not, maybe we have a hiking trail deficiency. We don't have enough. We should have 2,000 per resident. Impact fees aren't going to fix that. But what impact fees can do is say, as you grow, we're going to maintain that 1,000 foot per resident ratio. And if you feel like you need more as a community, that's up to the residents who live in town today to address that need. But an impact fee can keep it from getting worse. We can maintain that ratio of open space, trails, length of sidewalk, number of trucks per 1,000 residents, whatever it is, with an impact fee. So that's the kind of thing, and it has to be a capital expense. So it could pay for a truck or a portion of a truck, but it wouldn't pay for the person to drive it. It wouldn't pay for the gas to run it or the trips to get an oil change kind of thing. But it's for capital expenses based on new capacity.
Kate, you look like you're poised.
Don't have any sidewalks. But we have dirt roads. Which I mean, I live on a dirt road and it's pretty much, we have a boundary with Freeport fairly close by, and I think all the residents that live in Freeport use our dirt road for dogs in the afternoon. It's based on where I live, what I do, and my neighbors. It's really a valuable resource to us. So if a number of new residences or homes were built on our road, I mean, how do we maintain that quality of life that we have for everyone?
Mm-hmm. So a couple things come to mind. One is, you may decide that you have a need for places for people to walk their dogs. And there's not enough places. Maybe your road is being overburdened or overrun with people. Used to have, a handful of people, and now it's got, 200 people out there walking the dog, and you need a multi-use path, and that becomes part of a capital plan so that people have enough of enough options to do those kinds of recreation. I was starting to say or think as you were talking about this example, a lot of road projects that are subject to impact fees are expanding the capacity of that road. Like if you were going to repave a road or pave a gravel road, you wouldn't necessarily be getting more traffic per day or, increasing the amount of trips that could go through an intersection, for example. But if you were going to be putting a traffic signal or a turning lane or something that would increase the capacity of the intersection because there are new residents, new businesses that are increasing traffic at that intersection, we have to put in a turning lane, then a portion of that road project, you know, maybe a third of it associated with the cost of putting in that turning lane could be subject to an impact fee. So it wouldn't pay for the whole thing necessarily, but it would pay for, you know, whatever. If you could get 1,000 cars a day through an intersection and you did a road improvement, now you can get 2,000. Half of the cost of that project could be an impact fee.
George, do you have any? Paul, are you here as an observer or are you here as a capital projects guy, or do you have questions for Ben Smith?
No, I don't. I'm here because of the capital asset planning committee, and last year we did review the novel ordinance. We did give the select board our opinion on how that affected our ability to access those funds. And this, what Ben is saying here today, falls in line with what we were observing as we reviewed the ordinance last year.
So are we addressing your concerns? Or do you have more concerns?
No, you're, he's, I think, affirming what we concluded is that the way our ordinance is structured now and the way impact fees work in general, there's very little impact that those fees could have on what we do. And we were talking downstairs, dump trucks. We don't allow new development to create more town road. So you're not going to buy a new dump truck because you have more road to plow. So that isn't going to help. Or ditch to excavate, not a ditch to create it, to next, we can't maintain it, to create it. So something, whether it's the way the town's ordinance is worded now, did not foresee a way to move those funds into those capital needs. Even with the specific facilities committee, the discussion was around what part of those facilities are driven by growth and what part of those facilities are driven by hopelessly out of date and need to be replaced. I think it's more the latter than the former. So we would love, and the Capital Asset Planning Committee would love to see impact fees being a source of revenue for the assets we have to replace or have to add to the fleet. We were not able to make a connection. I think Ben just affirms what we concluded. The way things are working now, it would be difficult to find a way, in any meaningful way, to see those funds used for what the committee president does. Now, the committee, as part of that initiative, was also trying to take a forward look, and we contacted all the committees in town to say, you see something happening in your committee that might create a capital need, let us know. So that planning board is working on something and the town is gonna own sidewalks. 1,000 feet of sidewalks someplace that we don't now have. Not only does the capital asset planning committee need to plan for their eventual replacement, but if they're new that the capital project impact fee money, like anything like, or playground is being created in town because of whatever, and you have to put $50,000 worth of equipment on that playground that's now a town asset, probably will be in our committee. Trying to make those connections. Right now, we're not seeing it.
Okay, well, thank you for being here, and I think this workshop is an attempt to focus a revision of the ordinance so that we can plan for growth and utilize impact fees to support that growth. So I think we heard what the Capital Asset Committee said, which I think was good advice. So I know time is short, but yeah, hold on, I have a thought. So this is a airball type thing, but So currently, on any given night, there are 150 bicycles on town of Pownell, on dirt roads, and the growth is astronomical. You almost can't go down a road now without. In fact, if you go back through Pineland tonight, there'll be a group.
There was a group parked at the school. Yep, and they went by while we were waiting.
And so, and not saying that this is like, but this is a what if. So what if we said, we cannot sustain this type of use on the roads without improving the roads to support wherever this population of bicycles is coming. We'd have to do a survey to find out how many people were new residents of Pownell. But if we were using, a recreation impact fee to, perhaps build 3-foot bike lanes on sections of road, is that possible? Or to improve dirt roads? Because most of these people are crazy with gravel bikes. And, on my road, this weekend, there were 250 bikes on that road, My horse hates them because they don't, they don't say on the right to a horse. They just come by and they go, kidding. But would that be something? I mean, there are things that happen in Pownell that may not be generated by building, but by, people moving into town and inviting their friends. I mean, there's
Right.
Anyway.
Yeah, I think that's a good example of, the next time Elmwood is due for a construction project, maybe it might need wider shoulders. And if you can say that's because of growth in town generally, you can calculate, the cost of that project compared to the number of people who are moving and say their share of it is this, and that breaks out into a per dwelling unit impact fee. It's not going to catch everybody who's driving over from Freeport and parking at the school, but it will, it could be an option.
Okay, thanks. Yeah, I just needed to get that out of my head. Go.
Zia Bowen, I'm going to just say something as a planning board member, and that is, we were going to discuss this, but we didn't know enough to frame the questions. So I can go back and frame those questions and get some feedback. And I also want to mention with Bradbury Mountains expansion, we're going to get a lot more traffic that isn't residential, but there is an impact involved. I don't know enough about what our projected growth is. And I don't know how many new residents we have because they're of the single family development. I'm wondering about the plan for a town center and specifically the infrastructure, the water system that might be needed for anticipated growth in the town, as well as the public works building. So I'm just posing that question. I'm wondering if that's something we really need. We need the building. It probably needs water, more, maybe a new kind of connection. And if there's some way to use those impact fees through an ordinance revision, my personal opinion, not planning board, would be number one. As much as I love bicycle path, and I never bike on Route 9 because there isn't any shoulder. So that's what I have to say.
Okay, thanks, Maxine. Young man, do you have anything that you want to?
I'm just here as a member of the planning board, and just try to learn a little bit more about.
Well, I'm glad you're here, Mr. Holden.
Yep. I mean, just a quick follow-up. Some impact fees do apply on a town-wide basis. And, I think there are many other projects. That intersection project I mentioned as an example, there was one in Wyndham that I worked on a while ago that, the further you got from the intersection, the smaller the fee became because you weren't going through that intersection, for every single trip you were taking. And I could envision, certain impact fees would apply to maybe some parts of town differently or certain developments differently. And again, it's not all only residential. I think, for example, a campground expansion that was going to You know, people, if they wanted to go to a store down the road or a sandwich shop or whatever it was, and they needed a sidewalk or a bike path or something off the street, that could also be subject to impact fee.
Did that answer your question, Marcia?
I think so. I have more questions with the.
Yeah, we got. So where do we go? What do we do? We need to revise, we need to review the ordinance. Should have done this 10 years ago, and then amend our fee schedule based on current actual impacts that we're feeling, but we're gonna have to either accumulate data or project data. Is that correct?
It's understanding, you know, what is the capital plan? You know, in, for example, if a path from Bradbury to here was on the list, you could quantify the cost. If shoulders from here to North Road or the town line with down Route 9 is needed, then you could quantify the cost. So what do you need and what is it going to cost? And then doing a projection on how much of that is attributable to new growth versus, hey, everybody in town would use that path. You know, it's trying to understand what that balance would be. So it's both sides of the equation.
And how, and what flexibility do we have with the money in our current fee schedule? Like we have
recreation, open space, public safety, public works is what we collect on. And the higher amounts go into recreation and open space, like, because it's a per bedroom cost on every building permit that comes in. And then a larger amount goes to those two open space recreation and smaller amounts go to the public works and public safety account.
how can we reallocate that
Exactly.
to having a majority of the fees? Can you give me a scenario where we could, instead of charging $125 a bedroom for recreation, restructuring that so that could be charged for public safety? Say that we've decided that we need to buy an ambulance. How can we restructure that? Because the more pressing need for the next 10 years would be an ambulance rather than a walking path.
Yep. I think my first response is those are independent things. You could have a fee for the ambulance in addition to the fees you need for other uses.
Okay.
Many communities that use impact fees, like even Panel, will have multiple impact fees, and they're all different, again, depending on the use and where they are in town. So when I was looking at the ordinance, my first thought was, these formulas, I think a lot of them are from 2008, and the value of land in those formulas does not reflect the current reality. And I was like, wow, if the town is trying to save up to buy 10 acres somewhere, it's going to take a lot longer than it should if you update the formulas to reflect those. So I think that there's immediate things like, as far as updating the existing impact fees, but then if there's additional work for things that aren't covered by these fees, like understanding what those needs are and what the plan is, or developing an outline of a plan and then using that as the basis for the impact fee.
And if we did that and we came up with a new plan, that revision would have to go to town meeting?
It's an ordinance, yes.
So,
And we used to, at one point, collect for solid waste because there is a category in the spreadsheet, but we don't anymore. So I'm wondering if that's one that we want to consider as we are looking forward with the Casella contract coming to an end in a couple of years and what the future of trash collection might look like for the town.
or the potential transfer station.
The potential transfer station.
Yeah. So we have homework.
Mhm.
So the first thing would be to revise upward the impact fee, because I realized what Ben was saying is true. We're
Yep.
charging. Not that it's the town's job to usurp money from new development, but we should be realistic about it.
Yeah, and another thing to consider is the town doesn't need, I mean, you may calculate again, hey, everyone in an immediate area like this area, any new resident, commercial use, anything could be paying into a sidewalk impact fee or a wastewater treatment fee or something. But if there's a townwide benefit to that, the town doesn't need to charge 100% of the cost of that improvement. You can charge something less if you wanted to. So if you do this calculation and you're like, oh my gosh, it's gonna cost, $5,000 for every single family home to do whatever this is, you could say, well, if that's the actual cost, then we'll charge new residents maybe half of that. And then the taxpayers in general would fund the rest of it. So it's understanding, like, again, what is the improvement, what is the cost, and then how do you allocate it?
So a question, which probably shouldn't ask, but so we haven't had a new house built for less than $1 million in the past 2 years. Do impact fees reflect the valuation?
It's the impact of that home. It's not the value. I've seen impact fees differentiated by the type, so if you had a recreation impact fee and you're making a certain assumption about senior housing, who's there and, what kind of needs they'd have for recreation versus a 4-bedroom home with a different kind of demographic, but, the value is not part of that.
Becky, any other?
I have nothing more to ask at the moment.
Okay.
So can you sort of, for me being kind of liberal, what would be the next step for the select board from your perspective?
I think in order to do work with impact fees, I'd want to understand what, is the plan for recreation or what is the plan for transportation? And there's not many communities in Maine that have, a really big spreadsheet with 13 tabs across the bottom and a really fleshed out capital improvement plan. I've, as part of impact fee work, helped develop that. And sometimes it's, this is what the rec department needs for the next 5 years. And that can be enough to make a good connection between needs and new development. So that's part of it. We could get started on updating the existing, if that's an easier task. Some of the ones that I saw in the book are really just kind of updating based on population and, the costs to buy an acre of land in town. But when it comes to a fire barn or a truck or feet of sidewalk, we'd want to know, like, are we planning for 500 feet or 5,000 feet? Are we planning for a 3-bay garage or, a 12-bay garage?
I think the goal would be, and please jump in, would be to update the current plan and start working on, I really like the idea of having right on a spreadsheet, this is the plan for Pownell in the next 10 years. These are the developments that we see are going to happen because of projected population growth. And having that, so this impact fee actually responds to a need and not just to a wish.
Right. And that is a key part in making sure that the fees you're collecting are being used appropriately and you're not in a situation where you've collected fees for 5 years and kind of don't know what to do with it. And then you end up trying to track people down and return fees and that kind of thing. Right. So keeping that plan updated so that you've, know what you're going to be spending it on each year or every couple of years,
So Paul, is there any room in your committee's agenda to consider being involved in helping create a spreadsheet like that would be able to look at growth in the future and how that might impact your spreadsheet. Is that a fair question or is that too obscure?
No, I think it's a fair question, and it's kind of like what we asked all the committees and communication we sent out last year.
Okay.
All the major committees and select boards, tell us if you have something in your activities that is going to need capital expenditures down the road, so that we can get it into our plan to make sure there's funding for it. Now, one of the ways, I mean, I think you're absolutely right, is why have impact fees if you have no need? And that's essentially what Powell did. We have impact fees, but we never defined why we have impact fees and what we're going to do with the money. And that's why we get stuck. So while it wasn't overtly our intention of doing it for impact fees, it was our intention by contacting the committees. What are you doing? What are you hearing about that might lead to the town owning assets or having a capital outlay so we can get into our plan? I think from that aspect, the two things come together.
Just one minute.
The response we got from all of our letters was, we don't see it.
Yeah.
So I mean, I think from our perspective, yes, we'd be happy to participate at the appropriate time in the appropriate way. I think you've got to if we're collecting recreational impact money, the recreational committee needs to have a plan for what are they going to do with those funds.
Exactly.
Because eventually, those assets come into my committee. So we want to be connected with the same thing with any other committee that will be, the planning board all of a sudden decides that every house being built will have 500 feet of sidewalk owned by the town. Well, we want to be aware of that because somebody's going to get the impact fee going, but we have to get the planning going for the eventual replacement of that 30 years down the road. So yeah, there's connection, but we're not the source of those.
Right.
And I don't think we want to be the source of.
I wasn't asking that.
that.
I was asking, so let's just say that we're developing a spreadsheet for 15 categories. One of them is public safety. One of them is, we're going to need a new fire truck. I'm just saying this. You have the information about what a new fire truck projectedly might cost in the next 10 years, right? That's in your spreadsheet, right? So we could come to you and say, what would that cost? So that we could use that in the equation of how much of an impact fee would we be able to, or should we charge in order to meet the demand in your projection?
Yes, and our committee would be a good source for those types of assets we already have
Perfect.
now. Because we have projections
Right.
20 years out on what those things are going to cost.
That's right. All right. So if we could ask North Star Planning to work on revising and updating our current current impact fee to be appropriate with the current situation. That would be a great first start. And we will put it right in our to-do list to start developing a roadmap so really what our impact, what could we use impact, what's in our future, this is a great tool to utilize to help new construction provide, their impact on new projected capital projects. Kate, any thought about that?
That sounds good to me. It seems like this goes hand in hand also with working on a more specific plan for a fire station.
George?
No, I agree. It's pretty well thought out, I think, at this point.
Any epilogue, Ben?
I would say as we think about this and as the select board thinks about this, the more growth there is, the more impact there is, and the more substantial those fees become. I think this is more relevant discussion today than it was maybe 5 years ago, where we're seeing a higher number of permits being issued and more projects coming in front of the board. You know, but that being said, Pownell's still a relatively low growth community. I think if you're right to be thinking ahead, you know, what can happen on Route 9, what can happen in this part of town and planning for that. But the impact fees collected by Pownell are going to look very different from a town that's doing 400 permits a year, that kind of thing.
Just to have it, just to be able to be responsive to reality rather than sort of this wish list that
Exactly.
currently are at.
Yep.
Because we could adjust it, once we had a reasonable plan in place, then we could adjust that depending on the actual events.
Right.
Right now, we're in Never Land, our impact fee because it was a dream.
It's a good framework and it's a good foundation, and it needs a tune up. And, you know, if as the town quantifies other planned needs, then those could be considered. Yeah. Great.
Thank you, Ben. Thank you so much for your wisdom and your attendance here at the meeting, and I really appreciate the future and being able to collaborate with you. And, you know, we're heavily invested in this town and it hasn't changed. That's kind of a good thing, but it also where we know that it's coming and yeah, ready. Okay. Thank you.
Thanks, Ben.
Careful those bicyclers on my home.
Yeah.
All right. Are we all set to go right into the regular meeting?
Yes.
Then I am going to, thank you, Paul, for coming. I'm going to call the regular select board meeting to order, and we start with the Pledge of Allegiance. So if you're able, could you please rise? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, Ben. Good night. Can we just get Donna out of the way here?
Yes, I think we should jump right down to tax commitment.
Donna, it's so nice to see you.
The on or off?
It's on now.
Donna, do you know George Pottle, our new select board member?
Hey, George. Nice to meet
Donna is
you.
our assessing agent.
Have we met before?
I don't believe so.
That is a very good thing. Really? Means you haven't had an issue, so we're good. Oh, gosh. On TV, and
You are on TV.
I
so
know.
behave yourself.
I'll behave
Now,
myself.
what do you got for us, Donna?
Okay, so we factored properties this year by 30%. We had factored last year 20%. We factored this year 30%. That brings us up to 78% of market value. When we were audited the previous year, we came in at 56% according to the state. So factoring brings us up to 78 because 30% of the 56 is another 15 on top of it. And then we can add 10 just because to get to 78. There was a couple issues with factoring this year. Sheds became unbelievably high. So I had to adjust those because we can't have $25,000 sheds. That's the problem with factoring. You know, as a rule, everybody's good until every once in a while something peaks out. And it was same with the lot improvements. Our lot improvements were coming in at $35,000 and still I've got to bring them back to what 78% would be. So we were 77% last year with the 20%. We are at 78% this year. That means our homesteads are $19,500. Our veterans are $4,680. As a rule overall, we picked up $87,667,600 by factoring and new construction. CMP is up 4.7 million. And one of the things that we want to keep our factoring up is so we don't lose a lot of value in tree growth, central main power, anything else that personal property for the most part. And our TIF is $4,024,100, which is the first year that we're gonna claim TIF value. So Becky and I met, she did options. I don't know if you have them in front of you.
Be in your packets.
And Becky did it according to how much unassigned funds, undesignated funds that we use. So if we use nothing, so our tax rate this past year was $17. And that dropped, I think, from 1810 to
1885.
1885. So it will be the same way with the increase this year. No undesignated funds, we're looking at 1605. If 150,000 is used, we're looking at 1565. And if 300,000 is used, we're looking at 1530. What it also does is underneath that, it will give you an indication of what each one of those mill rate has on a taxpayer with a $323,000 value. Because not only are we changing according to the mill rate, but we're adding the 30% on top of it.
Any questions, George or Kate? Clarification for Donna's Voodoo Economics. So, what do you think about the overlay here? I mean, are we gonna get people yakking, you think? What's a safe overlay?
Well, so we have the different overlays that goes with each one of them. Just so that you know, last year, our overlay was $14,077. Yes, we're gonna have interest. I like the 1530 with the $24,000 overlay. That makes me most comfortable. But it also means that we use the most undesignated.
If we use that undesignated, where would we be for the total undesignated fund balance?
So I'm not sure because we haven't had the audit, but I did do some quick math and we over collected revenues in the last fiscal year by 300,000. So it looks like we actually might wash with that over collection versus using that 300. So a little bit better case scenario than what I was looking at going into town meeting.
That has been
Mhm.
historically over collect about.
Yes.
So George, you understand that projection we had at town meeting was without a $300,000 over collection. That's not the right word.
Underestimate of revenues.
So that money has been collected. It wasn't part of our our conversation during town meeting. So there is $300,000 available in our undesignated fund. So that would leave our undesignated fund balance at what, Becky?
So we were hang on, I actually have it.
Million, like that.
Yeah. And we allocated 755 out of this town meeting. So now we've got that wash of 3,000, so we're dropping by 4.5, and that's without knowing the unexpended fund portion of it too. So there could be another cushion. So that's putting us down to quick math, 1.7 million. We're required to keep $1 million in.
That also doesn't include the future facilities
Yes.
expenditure.
And we take that 455,000 out of there if that amount of money is spent, which then drops us down to about the 300,000, which is the collection that we just saw.
So board, with Donna's wisdom and advice, the question is, which option would the board like to choose, knowing that each option has a increase to the tax bills? Option one, the increase is 1,300. Option two, the increase is 1,100, and option three is $963. It's always been historically the board's discussion to try to minimize tax increase as much as we can. But history does not necessarily dictate current board's decision-making process. Kate, do you have thoughts?
My suggestion would be option 3.
Any reasoning? Just
My question coming into this meeting was regarding what would be left in the unassigned fund balance.
Okay.
And I've been sort of reassured, I guess, with some good news about that.
George?
No, I believe, option 3 is the best plan moving forward. Just based off like trying to think of some of the fixed incomes that are coming due, both that I'm related to and others I know in town, like $900 a year is still gonna be a lot for them. So, and with undesignated funding being accounted for, I think it's the best option for us.
Becky, would that work for you, option 3?
Yes, I'm comfortable with option 3.
Well, then, then I would like to make a motion that we set the value at the mill rate at $15.30, that we use $300,000 as an unassigned fund from the unassigned fund and as authorized by town meeting, right? And which would keep our overlay at $24,176.54.
I second.
So it's been moved and seconded to go with option 3. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Motion carries. Donna,
Thank you.
thank you so much.
You're welcome. I need signatures. Can I pass these? Yes, yes, yes. Becky did all the work on your options, so she did a great job. 4 places, 1. Thank you. Nice to meet you.
What's new?
You're looking at it.
4 million for Estabrooks?
Well, it was more than, it ended up being 5 something. Vibration. And I'd like to discuss something different.
Yes, I would too.
The only other thing is, oh, sorry, that's me. We've put out an RFP for revaluation. We've put it out again, looking at 2028, and we still, I mean, I've pleaded my case with anybody that I know. It's just, people are too busy. I don't know how much longer we can factor. So far,
They can.
as long as I'm not, we're not dinged too much, we'll do what we can. And I think we're covered with the fact that we don't want to lose. I mean, you don't want your homestead going down to $12,000 either. You want to try to keep that up there and keep what we can from our utilities. Yeah, so anyways. Okay, thank you all very much. Becky will want them. I'll leave them up.
Donna, as always, an extreme pleasure. When are you next? I'd like to visit with you, talk a little turkey.
I am in, the second Tuesday
You're
of
not going on an extended vacation?
August. No, that would be called retirement. and That's not happening right now.
Thank you for all your work.
Thanks,
Drive
Donna.
carefully.
Yeah.
Okay, I'd like to go back to the agenda and, thanks. And, accounts payable. Accounts payable 25, AP warrant number 4 in the amount of $4,149. And let me do that again. AP warrant number 4, the amount of $4,149.28.
I move that we approve AP warrant number 4 in the amount of $4,149.28.
Been moved and seconded to approve AP warrant number 4 for $4,149.28. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Motion carries. Next item is fiscal year 26 AP warrant number 3 in the amount of $381,662.26.
I move that we approve fiscal year 26 AP warrant number 3 in the amount of $381,662.26.
Been moved and seconded to approve fiscal year 26 AP warrant number 3 in the amount of $381,662.26. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, motion carries. Next item on the agenda is payroll journal, number 32 in the amount of
Second page, sorry, I forgot to put it on the agenda.
$10,054.57.
That we approve payroll journal
32,
52,
32,
32,
the amount of
the
10.
amount of $10,054.57.
Excellent.
Second it.
Moved and seconded to approve payroll journal number 32, the amount of $10,054.57. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, motion carries. Next item on the agenda is the minutes of previous meeting, July 14th, 2025, regular meeting.
I move that we approve the minutes of the July 14th, 2025 regular meeting.
Second it.
Moved and seconded to approve the minutes of July 14th, 2025, regular meeting. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, motion carries. Minutes are approved. Next on the agenda is public comment on non-agenda items. Opportunity for any resident of the town of Pownell to step forward and be heard by the select board. Garcia.
See, Bowen Royal Road, I'm just going to state the obvious, but after the discussion about impact fees, seems to me like we have to have some kind of discussion about prioritization of projects and also shaping them to fit what we anticipate getting. And I don't know if we've thought about that process. We went through that community resilience workshop and there's some gems in there, but I guess I'm asking what have we thought about how we're going to get those, list of priority items?
I think that is to be determined in workshops and discussions by the select board and, involved citizens. I think we really were just trying to get a feel for how to proceed next. I think Ben Smith gave us a great idea on how to do that. I'd love to see that spreadsheet at the end of the day with 15 different items of what the town projects to need and how much it's going to cost. And if we do that, then this impact thing is a real tool. How we get there, I think that's going to be a work in progress.
Okay,
Great
thanks.
suggestion.
Thanks.
All right, department head reports. Department head reports can be viewed on respective websites. go to the department and click on that, and there's a report. I am going to have to work with our new road commissioner, make sure that gets up. Does that go to you, or does it go to our IT person?
Jaylene? Yes, so when anyone, department head submits a report with the agenda packet, it's sent to her to be put up on the website. And that's part of the reorganization and cleanup we're working on as we morph into our overhaul of the website this coming years.
Thank you. Does the select board have anything to report on either their committees, their liaisons, or anything else? Okay, George? Neither do I. All right, we've done the tax commitment under new business fee schedule, my favorite. Every year we update our fee schedule. You have that in front of you. Becky, do you have a roadmap on how to do this, or should I just read it and see if it's needs to be updated?
Yes, most of, so you have a red line copy, and most of these come from the code enforcement office. Just updating to current trends. We did a lot of updating on a lot of these others last year. The administrative fees, I have nothing to update this year, so the first page was fine. But most of them, like I said, really came from the code office to update their schedules, and added in a solar fee as well, because we're starting to see more solar come through.
Okay, so I'm going to start off with code enforcement fees. So I'm going to move that we amend our fees, and it'll need to be seconded and voted on, okay? All right, Kate? So I move that we update our accessory building permit fee. The minimum is 25 plus 15 cents a square foot.
Second, that we update our accessory bill.
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? All in favor? So moved. I move that we update our alterations fee from $20 to $25 plus $20 a square foot.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to update our alterations fee. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? I move that we update our change of use home occupation permit from $1,200 to $500 plus 30 cents a square foot.
I second.
Been moved and seconded to update our change of use home occupation permit. Is there any further discussion? All in favor? I move that we update our demolition permit from $20 to $25.
I second.
Been moved and seconded to update a demolition permit. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? So moved. I move that we update a moving structure permit from $20 to $25.
I second.
Moved and seconded to update a moving structure permit. Any further discussion? All in favor? So moved. I move we update our new building or addition from $20 to $100 plus 30 cents a square foot.
Second it.
Moved and seconded to update our new building or addition permit. Any further discussion? All in favor? I move we update our swimming pool permit from $20 to $25. Moved and seconded to update our swimming pool permit. All in favor? I move we update our business sign permit from $20 to $25. All in favor? Oh, sorry. Moved and seconded to update our business sign permit. Any further discussion? All in favor? I move we update our business registration permit, which is not updating. It's staying the same. Minimum fee is staying the same. Late fee staying, I move that we update our reinspection fee per visit from $50 to $75.
Second it.
Moved and seconded to update our reinspection fee per visit. All in favor? I move we update our creation of a single lot, which was amended at town meeting in 2024 from $500 to $625. Moved and seconded to update a creation of single lot fee. Any further discussion? All in favor? So moved. I move we update our driveway entrance fee from $100 to $125.
Second.
Moved and seconded to update our driveway entrance fee. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Moving on to electric fees. I move we update our minimum electric fee from $50 to $75. Moved and seconded to update our minimum fee for electric fee. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? On to our plumbing code. I move we update our reinspection fee per visit from $50 to $75.
Second it.
Moved and seconded to update our reinspection plumbing fee. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? On our,
Floodplain.
is it floodplain?
It looks
Move we update our floodplain. What is that, Becky?
The flood plan.
Oh, flood plan, I'm sorry.
Yeah, flood plan.
Okay, sorry. I move we update our flood plan from $50 to $75.
Second it.
Moved and seconded to update our flood plan. Is there any discussion? You have to, so if you have a site plan review and you need to include a flood plan, you need to pay for that. Good to know. Any further discussion? All in favor? New fee, I move we impose a solar fee at $75 plus 30 cents a square foot of panels.
Second it.
Moved and seconded to impose a solar fee. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Mass gathering, I move we approve a small nonprofit fee from $125 to $150.
Second it.
Moved and seconded to impose a small nonprofit to revise and the amend and small nonprofit fee from $125 to $150. Any further discussion? Seeing none in favor. I move we amend the small for-profit fee from $250 to $300.
Second it.
Moved and seconded to amend the small for-profit mass gathering fee. Any further discussion? All in favor? Motion carries. I move we approve a amended large mass gathering fee from $1,000 to $1,500.
Second it.
Moved and seconded to amend the large nonprofit mass gathering fee. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Moving on to the solar arrays. I move we impose a new solar array fee from $1,500 plus $30 a square foot.
Second it.
Moving second to impose a solar array fee at $1,500 plus $30 a square foot. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Further discussion about fee schedule.
I kind of, it's a lot of changes and I kind of wish the CEO was here.
Yeah, I think the CEO calculated these around existing towns' fee schedule, so. Okay, next item on the agenda is planning facilitator oath. I move that we appoint William Schmidt, town planning facilitator, date of appointment, July 1st, 2025. Date expires June 30th, 2026.
A second.
Moved and seconded to appoint William Schmidt as town planning facilitator. Any further discussion? Mr. Schmidt, Becky and I had a conversation about job description, job responsibilities. Mr. Schmidt agreed with all that, so any further discussion? All in favor? Carries. Next oath is for Road Commissioner Daniel Libby. I move we appoint Daniel Libby, Road Commissioner. Date of appointment, July 28th, 2025. Term expires June 30th, 2026.
Second.
Moved and seconded to appoint Daniel Libby, Road Commissioner. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, motion carries. Thank you, Mr. Libby. Personnel policy edits. Right, summary of changes. Oosh. Page 2. Going to add the to the first, second, third, fourth paragraph. Page 7. Remove the title of deputy fire chief and replace with captain or lieutenant. Page 20, replace full and part-time with level 1 and level 2. Page 29, struck the ordinance language that is now a policy and that a language is incorporated into the personnel policy document. That's page 29. Page 31, included the main earned leave accumulation per state law, clarified that item B applies to both level 1 and 2 employees, clarified holiday pay for level 1 and 2 employees. That's on page 31. Page 32, clarified what happens when the holiday falls on a weekend and struck redundant language. Page 34, corrected the name of the health insurance plan the town participates in. Corrected the language in items C and D to reflect the benefits chart. Edited the language in 603, 604, 605, and 606 to reflect the chart and to have consistent language. Added the 30-day waiting period language. Under 607, edited to reflect current plan and current name of company. Corrected language to reflect the chart. Any questions about the edits to the town personnel policy? Seeing none, I'll move that we adopt the amendments as read.
Seconded.
Moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion? All in favor? Motion carries. Thank you, Becky. Good
Thank
job
you.
on that.
Thank you.
Next item on the agenda is Community Resilient Partnership Grant Program update. Becky.
So I met last week with the staff at North Star and an intern that they had working on where they were with collaborating all the information from the workshops and the community outreach sessions and everything. They sort of came up with a list of priorities. So that's what this document really is. We really had a great discussion about so many opportunities. One thing I learned, and I just want to say this right up front, that GP-COG also offers grant writing services under the membership that we pay for. And they do community resilience partnerships. So I think we have an opportunity to get 2 grants started right off the bat. So we're kind of at that point now where we're ready to kind of determine which one we would like North Star to pursue. There are just so many possibilities. Obviously, heat and cool pumps might be a good one in the meeting room, stage room, offices, LED lighting was identified as well as maybe a priority. We talked about collaborating with Durham on a transfer station, and they have just now added grant funding to the Community Resilience Partnership Program for the support of the development process of a transfer station, not the building, but to get the design documents and things like that, up to $150,000. So that's substantial money that we could look at if we move forward in that way. If we collaborate with Durham, I think it does give us more money as well if we partner in on that. So this is probably really a document that you'll want to take a little bit more time to read over and maybe come back at the next meeting and maybe we all pick our top 3 and see where some commonality falls in that and think about moving forward. The final application has been sent to the state. I got email notification today. It's been received, so I should be getting the final notice that we're all set and approved and ready to go. So we're just trying to get all our ducks in line.
Thoughts? George? Kate?
To me, that sounds like a good idea, just to review this and prioritize and have a discussion next meeting.
Great.
George?
No, I concur that pretty good idea to get through this and, get rolling on it.
Well, thank you for doing that. Becky? Certainly your opportunity there. All right, so homework, review that document and we'll be on the agenda for next meeting, which is
August 11th, 14th. I got the date wrong last time.
just a reminder, we'll only have one select board meeting in August.
August 11th, yes.
All right, next item is Civics 100.
So I just want to, it's kind of another homework assignment too, and I just wanted to revisit when we had Peter come back in the spring and for George's benefit to just bring him up to speed. He had talked about that program he did through adult ed, where it was about, I think they did it for 6 weeks and they had, town clerk, town manager, fire chief come, minimal cost to people who signed up and you just learned about your government, how's the magic sort of happen? And it promoted some volunteerism as well, which we, could always use. We have a few committees that are a little slim now, and we expressed interest in doing it maybe next spring and hitting their January catalog, which January is going to come pretty fast. So I thought that maybe I just plant the seed. We come back again on August 11th with maybe 3 ideas apiece of what we think are good topics or who we might want to be there, how long we'd want to run it, how many weeks, and maybe how long a session to just start some foundational work and determine, if we want to get on that January catalog for next year.
Homework number 2.
And that homework's for me too, so.
Is there any other new business? Under old business, Becky, where are we with the alternate TV? Remember we talked about that?
Yeah, so I worked with Bill in the office. We ordered a very cheap part. I say it was $14 that might be able to mirror. And so so that came in at the end of last week. So we just need to get a monitor and come up and test it. If that works, then we can simply go buy a TV for, what are they, $500 for a TV that size and then a mount. And then I just need someone to mount it and we'd be able to run dual screens simultaneously now. So we're working on it. A lot cheaper than the $10,000 estimate that we were given from the audio place that put in the equipment. So, yes,
Okay, so you'll keep us updated. on that.
absolutely. Yeah.
Where are we with developing that workshop/seminar with our town attorney? Have we?
So we'll need to pick dates in September. We were thinking at least September to kind of get past the summer with vacations and everything going on. So we could look at the 2 September dates and see if either of those work or even the beginning of October. So we could actually talk about, I'll come back with the dates in September and October on our next meeting and we can kind of choose one and get Ben booked.
That'll just be for all committee members, all volunteers. Maybe we can do a potluck and just, bang some of the stuff out that we really.
Yeah. He's going to cover FOIA training and stuff like that, which I think would be great.
Good. Where are we with the sale of the old truck?
So I need to write up, or maybe me and the new road commissioner will write up a bid together and then I can get that up and posted. So I quickly had a conversation with Paul and it includes like the wing and plow and some other stuff. So I need to get a full list. I pulled the title app, so I have the vehicle details and we just need to sit down and write up a quick little sheet and get it posted.
Okay. Would you be willing to email me that so I can talk to Dan about that?
Absolutely.
So,
Yep.
think about it. Where are we with? So we table the office conversation until Mr. Giddings comes back.
Correct. He's back next Monday, the August 11th meeting. It will be back on the agenda.
There is, okay, that'd be in the correspondence. Okay, is there any other old business? Well, this could be old business. So last meeting, we had a conversation about a gentleman and a cat. That issue has been resolved. Gentleman is back home. Cat is alive and well, so just so you know.
The gentleman has passed.
He did.
He has passed.
When did that happen?
I got a inquiry from both a funeral home and Midcoast Hospital last Friday. And so he actually passed on July 14th. According to their email, anyway.
Really?
Yeah.
I wonder who I saw on the road.
I don't know,
The ghost.
maybe.
But
I have not seen, I haven't looked up the death certificate.
His car was.
I got a phone call from Midcoast and an email from the funeral home because there's no next of kin. They have reached out to the town for resolution, so I am working on that right now. I don't know. Yeah, the cat came from Hart. I don't know where the cat is. Yeah. What's that? Mhm. Okay. My understanding is Hart would have to solicit the court to enter the house, and it takes about a week to get that injunction to be able to enter the house.
Windows open.
I'm sorry, what?
We'll discuss this outside of.
Yeah.
Okay. Wow. This is a mystery because I swear I saw.
I know.
Okay, any other correspondence? Any phone calls?
Just a quick clarification, in the constant contact, we shared some inland fisheries and wildlife information on some upcoming classes that they had, and I did receive some emails from one resident stating that the class is the item that the class was about is prohibited in certain sections in Chandler Brook. And I just want to say that the class was not specific to Pownell. It was just, if you wanted to learn trapper education, here is the opportunity to do it. It wasn't anything specific to Pownell, just for clarification.
Okay. Is there any other business? Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion for adjournment.
Second.
George, you were gonna move to adjourn, right? And Kate second that? All in favor? You have before you a